Hi there, Michelle Visser on the Solely Rested channel. Thanks for joining me. Today we are talking about herbs. I love growing fresh herbs. They're so easy to dry and preserve and put away and use all winter long. And what a joy it is to have a little bit of August garden in a hot cup of tea in the middle of a cold January night. So I thought I would fill you in on what I do. This summer I grew both mint and chocolate mint, and I'm excited about the stevia and rosemary and thyme and oregano and lavender. So I have them hanging in different places of the house. I'm not going to take you into all the different locations. I also want to tell you before I forget that you can dry them in a brown paper bag. I do that often, especially depending on the herb. If they have seeds like oregano, that seeds that will fall out as it dries, I love doing it in a paper bag. I simply tie the herb up in the bag, hang it upside down, so that any seeds that fall out will be caught in the bag. It does take longer to dry them that way because it doesn't have the air circulation being in the brown bag. So you do have to allow a longer drying period, but it leads to no mess and an easy collection of the seeds. So I also like to just air dry them. I am very blessed. I love my farmhouse kitchen. I have these beams that it's really easy to just hang my herbs from the beams. But you just wrap them in small bundles. You don't want to make the bundle too big because then you're going to have herbs in the center that aren't getting airflow. So keep your bundles small. Just use simple twine to tie them up and then literally hang them from wherever you have a good spot. The ideal location is going to be a dark, cool place. But I love them in the kitchen. You smell them, you see them. It just feels good. And personally, you know what? I just love seeing my hard labor hanging right there and getting to enjoy it for a few weeks. So when it's time, how do you know when it's time maybe? When it's time to take them down and store them away, you're going to know because you're going to find that they're nice and brittle. If you check them periodically as the days go by, you'll notice that they get harder as the days go by. They're no longer the soft leaves they were when you hung them up there, but instead they're crackly. So it's as simple as this, guys. I get a jar, I sit down, and I separate my leaves from the stem and put my leaves in the jar. As long as you have let them dry well, they are going to keep for a long time. These actually over here, so there's my jar. These over here are the last little bit I have from last year's harvest of mint. And you can see they're still wonderful. I use them and love them. I love just a hot cup of tea, but I also like baking with them. They make a delicious mint chocolate chip cookie, dried mint. And I love that I know everything about this herb. I know when it was first planted. I actually planted this back in end of January in little cups up in my upstairs bathroom of all places, because that is the one place in the house that they are tucked away. They're not in my way to have just the bathroom counter. And I even set up temporary shelves in the bathroom, and it's just loaded with cups filled with seeds or little pots and little pans and whatever I can find. So anyway, I know that these started back in January, and then with my own two hands, I took the little seedling out of those cups and placed it in the warm dirt of my garden, and then I tended to it and watered it and saw it grow, and it gave me such joy. I like planting herbs in pots out in my garden because then I have options of where I can move them to. This year, for instance, I had rows of tomatoes and I had rows of herbs in front of the tomatoes. But as the tomatoes grew and kind of went even more insane than usual, I was able to move the herbs. I also can move them if it's lots of hot sunny day after day, too much sun, I can move them into a shady area for a few days. So I really like having them transportable. Um, but what was I saying? Oh, so then to make my cup of tea, I just have a cup of hot water, and you have a few different options, or lots of options you could use for strainers, but I kind of like, is it wet? No, it was just a lead that came out. Okay. I kind of like this one because you can just put it right down there into your jar, get your herbs, and you're good to go with your cup of tea. I also like ones that open up all the way because you can get some mint out. I'm having trouble. You can get some mint out, fill it up, and it's open so you can crush it even if you would like. This is my preference though of all of my different strainers because it's bigger. I think it's better about getting the mint flavor infused into my water because it's just a bigger area for the water to infuse. This is my mint from my cup of tea this morning. So I have my little compost bin on my counter, which is not a fancy compost bin in any way. This is simply an old sugar canister that I found at my dump's give and take room. I love that room. When you live rurally, there's a lot of wonderful perks, but I kid you not, one of them is to be able to go to the dump, to the give and take room, and find treasures like this. Okay, so I'm going to dump my mint into there. And because I literally just used this a few hours ago, I'm not even going to worry about washing it out. Now, if it was from like yesterday, I would want to wash it out. But now I'm going to just put my mint in there. And then because it's, you know, this little cup, it's really easy for me to individually break up these leaves. And you don't have to do this. I just like doing it because I feel like it really gets more of a minty flavor through my hot water. So put the lid on that. And then this just floats right in the top of your hot water in your cup, which I actually don't have. I meant to fill this with hot water before we started, and I don't have hot water in here. So let me pour out my cool water and get some hot. And I will show you how my steeper floats right there in the top of the cup. I just let it steep for a minute or two, and it's delicious cup of tea. I often add, my favorite thing to add is my lilac infused honey. It's a great combination of that and the fresh mint. Okay, so here's my mint. And there you go. See how it just floats right on top there. In a minute, I will add some of my infused honey and have one of the most delicious cups of tea that I ever make. So that's it. I just wanted to inspire you that it's really not difficult to grow your own herbs. Drying them can even be just pretty and make you feel extra happy when you see the product of your labor. And then the taste, oh my goodness, it doesn't get much better, guys. Now, I am a firm believer that a lot of companies out there make really good money if we decide we'd rather go the more convenient route. Right? I mean, I definitely could buy mint tea in bags at my store, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I do buy tea at my store. I do. I buy a lot of packaged food because if I tried to make and source all of my own food, my family would starve. I'll just be honest. But when I can, the things that I can grow, the things that I can do, even if it's just a little thing every day, it is so fulfilling and it gives me such joy. I can't describe to you the joy of being in your garden, surrounded by these plants that you grew from seedlings and that you nurtured, and then knowing that they're going to provide food for your family. And the best thing for me, I love it, standing there on a hot August day and thinking, come February, when there's a foot of snow outside and the fire's going and it's dark out, I'm going to pull out some of these herbs that I'm standing here in August, you know, watering and looking at. I'm going to pull them out in February, and it's going to be like a little bit of this joy of this garden, a little bit of summer coming out and being part of our dinner on that cold February night. It's nothing better. We also grow our own popcorn. I have some of that drying right now. Again, there's nothing wrong with buying popcorn. I do buy popcorn. I can't grow enough popcorn to always, because we eat a lot of popcorn. But it's a special night when we're like, oh, let's use our homegrown popcorn tonight, right? It's just awesome. And I feel like those companies that are making a profit out of convincing us that we need convenience are also robbing us of something. They're robbing us of the simple, pure joy of doing little things like this ourselves. And it's not a sense of fulfillment that I have found I get in any other way than sourcing something myself, taking the time to make it, like maybe fresh bread or kombucha that I have carbonating on my counter right now. Yeah, I could buy kombucha. Yeah, I can buy bread. And I do buy both of them. But the ones that I take the time to make myself, there's just no other way to describe to you, if you haven't done this, than to just explain that it's a simple joy that you can't get any other way. And yes, sometimes those joys require a whole lot of hard work. And sometimes it's not hard work, it's just patience, of waiting from when you plant that seed until you have the mint that you've harvested. It's a long time, right? So it requires patience, it requires work. Is it worth it? Absolutely. So I hope I've inspired you a little bit to grow some of your own herbs next season and to have them hanging in your kitchen, right? And to store them away for winter so that you can enjoy an amazing cup of tea off of that hard work. It's really good. I often don't even add a sweetener because it's just so good. But I think I'm going to go get some lilac infused honey and add that in. I'll leave links in the comments or in the description about all those things I talked about. And I hope everything is fantastic in your neck of the woods.